welcome, Ms. Margot.
We are blessed today to have with us a missionary who is making his way to New York State. His name is Daniel Branscum, and he will come and speak to you for a few minutes, and he will introduce his children and his wife. And we will be receiving an offering for him at the close of the service. You can just make your check out to the church, and then we'll write him one for that. So you can also put cash, gift cards, coupons, whatever. No, I've received a lot of crazy things when I was on the road. So, Brother Branscum, you come and give us a few minutes.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be among God's people and to get a chance to share the burden that He's placed upon our hearts. I'm going to read one quick verse, and he told me I could have 5 or 6 minutes. I asked him if we could just come to church, and he opened the door. So, in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, it's the last thing that Jesus says before He ascends into heaven. And it says, "But ye shall receive power after the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem, and all of Judea, in Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth." The interesting thing about that passage, there's quite a few interesting things, but where I'm going to focus on is he talks about going to their local community in Jerusalem, to Judea, which is their region, but he also mentions an area of their region, Samaria. And I find that fascinating, and it fits with what we're doing. You see, Samaria was a different culture from the Jews. They separated, and they put distinct barriers. When they would travel from Jerusalem to Galilee, they would cross over the Jordan, go up the desert, and cross back over, just so they didn't have to go through their land. That's why Jesus tells them on one of these trips, He says, "I must needs to go through Samaria." And he travels up that way, and he speaks with a woman, and it shows the different culture that they were of. Because he tells the woman, "Would you call your husband?" And she says, "I have no husband." He says, "You're right. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're with now is not your husband." The Jews would not have tolerated that type of lifestyle. She would have been stoned if she was in Jerusalem or Judea. They had a distaste for these people. It was a different culture. It was a counterculture. And I could give you all the history behind it, but I'll spare you. It was something that ate at them to see these people and to see the lifestyles that they lived that were different from their culture. In New York, God has placed us there. I'm from Texas and she's from Oklahoma, and the Lord called us to New York through bizarre circumstances. How do you pastor in Oklahoma and have a church in New York contact you after you've prayed a prayer that, "Lord, if you want me to leave, just let someone from New York contact me"? Yeah. Wow. So the Lord called us up there. We moved up there. We helped with the church. I pastored there for a few years. While I was there, I don't want to draw glory. It was all God. I can explain the situation if you so desire to ask. But they accepted a doctrinal statement. They didn't have one. Through completely God's calling, God has moved us on from there to start in the mission field. And on the bulletin board back there, I have in green are 3 works that we have that are existing works. One is a mission in New York. The blue areas are where we've been working at. The red one is where we live at, which is just down the road from the mission that's there. And we've had requests in that town to share the gospel, to start a Bible study. So we're going to looking at starting a satellite Bible study there. We're not sure where the mission is that God is directing us to start. The places that we've started at, we're doing satellite Bible studies to get people in, to see the interest, and to move forward with that in those locations or bring them together. It's a town, or the small towns in upstate New York. People think about New York City, which is quickly dying, but in upstate New York, it's small pockets of people in farming communities, which is not what you think of. It's not what I thought of when I thought of upstate. I thought of farmland in the movies that you see, or forest. We moved up there. It is dairy farmers and an interesting You're dealing with dairy farmer culture that is counterculture and cancel culture. Speak with people of Muslim faith, of Hinduism. I have a Hindu that we have an ongoing dialogue that's been going for quite a few months. The guys in Weedsport, which was where we live, I was just out about normal business, and I began talking with the guy, witnessing with him, and he said he was Catholic. He was Catholic. He started reading his Bible. He found out that they didn't agree with what they were teaching, so he exited the Catholic Church. He said partially because I was lazy, I didn't want to go, partially because I wasn't going to waste my time and go to something that was teaching opposed to the Bible. What he did continue doing was continue to read his Bible, and the Lord opened the door to him, and he says, I received salvation, understanding what Jesus did for me. And he turned to me and he says, will you hold a Bible study? How many missionaries do you know that they are invited to an area to hold a Bible study?
Sometimes.
That was the first time I'd heard of it. So, while I'm speaking with him, another guy walks up, says, I'm in a situation, but I've never heard of this grace of Jesus. You hold those Bible studies, can I come and attend? So we have that is in our hometown where we're at in Weedsport. We have a few other situations. The first Bible study we held was in Wolcott. First Bible study, a young lady who came saying she was atheist. She was agnostic. We sat there for well over an hour after the Bible study concluded. She was asking questions about the Bible, about life, and at the end of it, she says, I want to thank you. She says, I've had these questions all my life, and I've had no one to ask. You see, we are working in a Samaria of people that are in a different culture, different time in their lives. In the South, where we're from, it's 2 generations down the decay line. I don't know where it is here. But to see people who've never heard the word Christ, many of whom don't know what the Bible is, other than what they've heard of it presented in media or what even Christianity is. People are curious, they want answers, and they're following the blind. It's the blind following the blind, and they're both in the ditch. And that's where we're finding these people at, is in the ditches of life. I thank you for the opportunity to share the work. I've been very brief. If you would like, I would love to to share some more with you. Just find us, speak with us. We're glad to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Dan.